Good afternoon, Venerable monks, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, my deep appreciation and thanks to Venerable Dr. Dhammaratana and Master Shan Bushen and the organizing team and the volunteers. Thank you very much for your warm hospitality on this occasion. This paper examines how Buddhism can tackle mindfully, meaningfully, and creatively economic crisis. I have a very simple thesis here for your consideration. My argument concerns on 7 key principles in handling economic and business matters in Buddhist societies. Though one can identify many more principles, here I plan to limit my introduction only to 7 key principles that may empower Buddhists to tackle economic crises meaningfully and effectively. In identifying and discussing the 7 principles here, I use a positive language rather than a negative terminology. The first principle is selflessness as opposed to selfishness. We can see that one's ego, self-centeredness, of course few speakers talked about it earlier. Broadly speaking, selfishness functions as the major hurdle in so many activities such as peacemaking, conflict resolution, as well as in creating unjust economic order. Unfair economic order is a serious concern today. At least in the last 2 centuries, sorry about it. So basically, I have missed a paragraph here. So basically, the key question is how Buddhism can be creatively address this issue. And so I am going to talk about these 7 principles. And so I basically identify 7 key principles, and then I move on. At least in the last 2 centuries, any Asian Buddhist society did not have the privilege of having a just economic order or righteous economic order. The inclusion, of course, as a result of colonialism and globalization, the inclusion of capitalist economic norms and profit-making ideologies which inherently privilege and morally also justify selfishness have more or less destroyed the prevailing economic foundations that Buddhism often treasures. Our local economists too, and political theorists, some of whom, though occasionally claim to be Buddhist, appear to be thoroughly brainwashed by certain self-centered Western ideologies. Don't think I am against the West when I say this, yeah? Ironically, perhaps, in a non-Buddhist manner, they have adopted the idea of owning everything. And this is a foundational problem for Buddhism. This is quite contrary to the foundational Buddhist teachings. If anything is invented or written today, people will talk about ownership, like the AI that we had earlier. Yeah? I think ownership is fundamentally a selfish ideology. It doesn't stand well with the notion of collectiveness which Buddhism promotes. And Buddhism often talked about, Buddha's teaching is centrally focused on the community, Sangha, the members, lay people, the collective group. On the contrary, in Buddhist societies, the foundation should be selflessness or anatta, anatma, rather than selfishness. Whether we belong to Theravada, our tradition, or Mahayana Buddhist tradition, here we have the participants, we value and embrace the ideal of Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is a sentient being who aspires to be awakened. And selfishness is the defining characteristic of selflessness is a defining characteristic of a bodhisattva. As selflessness, a key Buddhist doctrine, is highly instrumental in elevating social welfare and human well-being. In the process of adopting selfish business models, which are largely driven by profit-making ideologies, we have readily discarded the selfless models. By doing so, we have given priority to ideas of ownership and self-centered ideologies. If we want to create a fairer and just economic order around the world, as religious or secular communities, we have to go beyond the ideology of selfishness. It is only then that the majority of the world population would be able to enjoy at least the basic essentials. For example, clean air, pure water, adequate food, affordable health care, fully equipped education, and most importantly, livable housing. The lack of selflessness and also respect for the dignity of others are the foundations for hoarding wealth and denying others, in particular minorities, whether they are religious or ethnic, their rights, land, citizenship, and freedom. And I move to the second point here. Keeping promises rather than violating contracts. Now, why I identify this is the second principle I think is very important for successful economy in a Buddhist society. In ethics and religion, keeping promises is a virtue, a sila. Promise keeping can also be the foundation of economic success. Keeping the contract intact is the heart of successful business. Whether they are verbal or written promises, they all matter significantly. They should be respected by all parties. A dreadful feature of failing business or economy is that parties involved in promise making do not adhere to their obligations. Due to one party's neglect, the other partner also get into economic turmoil, crisis, as we witness today. Third point, third principle. Truthfulness. I think Dr. Chawla earlier mentioned about this importance of truthfulness. And this is also very important. Truthfulness in transaction. For successful business transaction, truthful words are foundational. Rather than changing one's words, being truthful in words enhance one's reward and benefit in this world itself. That's the foundation of a successful marketing as well as advertising and running a business. Here, we are reminded of the Buddha's life. The Buddha possessed a great virtuous quality. It is recorded that the Buddha will do whatever he says. So there's no gap between his words and actions. It appears that there wouldn't be any discrepancy between one's words and actions. In the Pali language, the technical terminology for these virtuous qualities, the sila, is yathavadi tathakari. This is a Pali term, yathavadi tathakari. I translated it as, in whatever manner he says, he does in the same manner. So there's no discrepancy between the two. In our daily life and business transactions, everyone should be able to practice this principle of integrity. Very important value in developed economies like Singapore and Japan and some of the other countries. Integrity is very important. Our failure to follow our words can cause chaos in daily life as well as in business. I move to my fourth point. And this is very important. Fair wages and just economic order. There is a very strong link between the two. Fair wages are foundational feature of a just society. Fair wages enable the creation and maintenance of just economic order. Rather than exploiting individuals and nations' resources, workers can be empowered to live righteously when they receive fair and equitable wages. You know, this is the very important. Maybe this is the medicine for corruption. Just livelihood depends largely on fair wages, and I think that's one of the problems, increase of crime and all the corruption that we witness in the world. Now I move to my fifth point, fifth principle. Value, this is important, this is come from the Buddhist tradition in particular. Valuing generosity and others' kindness. Valuing others' generosity and kindness is very important. Rather than abusing and misusing others' generosity and kindness, everyone should be able to appreciate and celebrate such actions. Though we do not often reflect upon this fact, our entire life, more or less, depends on others' generosity and kindness. The other here that I am talking about, that concerns us here, could be our parents, the family, teachers, community, or the state. And all these elements have been generous to us, also have been kind to us in various forms. And otherwise, person like we wouldn't be able to stand in a platform like this. Yeah? And in various manners, each social group in a society make our lives comfortable and safe. Our failure to recognize these vital contributions can make us ungrateful humans. And the Buddha was very clear that one important quality that elevates a human being, that means that you are grateful to other people, other people's activities. All Buddhist traditions highly appreciate others' generosity and becomes an important virtue treasured. Now I move to the sixth point. There is a kind of difficult issue for us. Debt-free lifestyle. Our modern lifestyles have become full of debts. Without credit cards, of course, e-money, it is impossible for us to envisage today's lifestyle. This goes further even to the nation's annual budget. All the developed nations have borrowed money, trillions. And leading a lifestyle free of debt is a virtue treasured in Buddhism, and the Buddha have taught to us not to be in debt. And when the monks are ordained, they have to make sure that they don't have any debts as a lay person, for example. Inculcating a debt-free lifestyle is important. Being a debtor is a cause of immense dukkha, suffering. It is not a desirable state for any human being to be in. Socially, wider society might look down upon debtors. They may be viewed as parasites rather than productive individuals contributing to the economy or living out of taxpayers' money. The seventh point, trust and confidence. Increasing trust and confidence is crucial. Rather than cheating and misguidance, building confidence is worth achieving. Trust is everything in life. Living with distrust is uncomfortable. We should be able to have confidence in others. In business in particular, losing trust and confidence can cause significant losses and even closure of the companies and businesses. Now, I go to my conclusion. In this presentation, as an argument, I have employed a very simple thesis for your consideration. By identifying 7 key principles, I have highlighted how much Buddhism appreciates the importance of virtuous life. We call it sila in some ways. So the sila for the business people, the market. So the importance of virtuous life with integrity and honesty, 2 key virtues in successful economies, integrity and honesty. Like the COVID that, orchid flowers that you received yesterday, the orchid flower that you have, it represents that, I think, in Singapore, that integrity and honesty and truthfulness. So it's very, I think we have to learn from it. So the virtuous life with integrity and honesty for successful economic order and in overcoming economic crisis. From Buddhist discourses, the discourses given by Buddha, it is clear one's virtuous life, my morality, my sila, should penetrate to all our activities, all our businesses and transactions and our dealings. The virtuous life with integrity is the most effective way in preventing corruption from occurring and overcoming economic challenges. Thank you very much for your attention.